Hey everybody, it's Wendy. Welcome. Today we are going to be using the fun cookie cutter punch set and the jar of haunts. This is a bundle that you can get. It's the Christmas one and the punch, and then you can go ahead and purchase the Halloween cookie cutter set separately. My video today is sped up a little because otherwise it would have been like 35 minutes long. And so I definitely had to speed it up in order to fit everything in here in somewhat of a timely manner. I'm using Tuxedo Memento Black ink and the Jar of Haunts stamp set to stamp these adorable pumpkins. I think these are some of my favorite pumpkins that Stampin' Up! Has put out in a long time. I just love them. They're they're realistic looking, but they're also just really pretty and kind of whimsical. I created a mask earlier, and as you saw, that was in my stamp case, and that is because I just save masks if I've used them. So remember when you're masking, here's a tip for masking. Whatever you want to be in the front, you stamp first. Then you mask it, and then you stamp on top of the mask. So it creates the illusion that those pumpkins now are like stacked behind each other. So yeah, whatever you want in the front is what you stamp first. Okay, so I'm getting all my pumpkins stamped, and then it has this beautiful little stem with a leaf that I got stamped. And then I have my little cookie cutter scarecrow here that I've already pre-cut. I cut him out a while ago, or stamped him, I should say, and then punched him out. But I wanted him trimmed all the way close to the edge. Okay, now I'm using a Copic multiliner to draw a stick coming down from my scarecrow because he's going to be standing on a stick in a pumpkin patch. And it's really important when you're using Copics to use a Copic-friendly pen so that it doesn't ruin your markers. Yes, I say ruin. My sister-in-law was just making fun of me about the way I say that this weekend. So anyway, I blame it on my Texas roots. Okay, so I'm drawing now a little sign to go in the pumpkin patch. Now the reason I'm showing you how to do this is simply because I did a video last week, or I shared a blog post last week that had this little drawn sign in the video, and I got asked a bunch of questions about it, and would I please show how to do that. So I'm showing you here. It's really as simple as drawing rectangles. I am no artist, and so that's how I think of it in my head, is like drawing rectangles. So I literally have just drawn 3 long skinny rectangles and 1 little bit fatter rectangles. I wrote the word pumpkins. I spelled the word wrong, and I wrote the ends backwards to just give it some interest and some fun whimsy. The thing about drawing signs is the scene that you're creating when you draw the sign has to be kind of a fun, whimsical scene, and then you don't have to worry about getting the sign just right. It will match what you're doing if the rest of the scene that you're creating is kind of like cartoony and whimsy. You don't want to obviously do this beautiful floral card and then try to put a sign in there because it won't go. So it has to kind of go with the theme or the scene that you're setting for the card, if that makes sense. It makes sense in my head, but I'm not sure I'm conveying it properly. So I'm just using a bunch of different Copic markers here to color all of these in. You certainly would not have to use Copic markers to do this. I'm not shading, I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm literally just using a bunch of different colors to color this little scarecrow in. I didn't care about shading the scarecrow because he wasn't the focal point of this project. The focal point for me is the pumpkins, so I wanted to spend my time on those pumpkins. I'm coloring in where the little hay parts are supposed to be coming out of his sleeves, and I'm going to show you the colors I used here because I did get some feedback that you guys do want to see the color numbers. So these are the colors that I used. There's an RV66, B26, Y18, so a bunch of different colors. Now I'm going to color the pumpkins, and I'm going to color one completely for you, but then the others I will probably skip past. So Y18, YR16, and YR09 is what I'm using for the pumpkins. So I'm putting down a base layer of the Y18, which by the way is probably my favorite yellow color on the planet. I love this color. So I'm coloring the entire pumpkin in yellow, and it's kind of a goldish yellow, which is what I want. And then I'm going to go in with my YR16, and I'm using the feather or flicking technique. It just kind of depends on who you talk to as far as what it's called. And I'm going from the bottom of the pumpkin up and from the top of the pumpkin down, because I want to leave that yellow in the center so that it's peeking through. Then I'm going to go in with my YR09, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. All I'm doing here is I'm creating layers of color on this pumpkin because I really want it to have lots of different colors. Then I'm going back in with my Y18, and I'm blending all through this pumpkin. Going back in with YR16, and I'm dragging that color back into the yellow a little bit. So as you can see, I've created dark on both sides of the pumpkin, and there's the center where it would kind of like be at a bend is lighter, and I did that intentionally. I want it to look like that. So all of my pumpkins, there really is no light source particularly for these pumpkins. When you're coloring, a lot of times you want to pick a light source. Is the light coming from the right or the left? And in this case, it's kind of like it's coming straight down on top of the card. So that's where I left it the lightest. And I colored all the pumpkins the same way. So they all kind of have that light feeling in the middle and the darker on the edges. Now I'm going in with YG, I think it's 03, and coloring all of my leaves. And I could have actually just left them like this, but I went ahead and I added some darker green to the base of these stems and a little bit into the leaves. I wanted to do that because I feel like it gives a little bit of dimension and interest to the stems and the leaves. And it just makes it look, I don't know, a little bit more artsy fartsy maybe, even though I'm not very artsy fartsy, but I just really like the way it looks, and it blended great. Even though it was a really dark green, it blended really great with this YG. So I really encourage you, if you have Copic markers, to sit down and try a bunch of different ones together, because you never know which ones are going to blend. Just because the number looks like it's supposed to blend with the number next to it does not necessarily mean that's going to happen. The pumpkins are a great example of that. I used totally crazy colors to do the pumpkins that are not anywhere near each other as far as blending, but the pumpkins turned out really cute. Okay, so now I'm making straw or hay that's kind of coming up out of these pumpkins, behind these pumpkins in this pumpkin patch. Again, I'm using that flicking motion. So that motion is simply pushing down on the marker and then lightening up as your hand strokes forward. So it just makes this very wispy look at the top, and it gives you the look of grass or hay or straw, however you want to say it. Where I live in California, it would be considered grass because we have this really tall, and now I'm just going in with a kind of a gold color. This is, I think, YR18 or YR16. So where I live in California, we have really tall, dry grass. It's like the Golden Hills, right? And so that's what I was thinking of when I drew this, because this time of year we've got this really tall, dry grass everywhere. Okay, so I apologize for my dogs barking. I don't know what they're barking at, but they probably will not stop anytime soon. So if you hear them in the background, that's what's happening. So now I'm going in with some E tones to color in my signs. And I'm doing, I think this is a E33 or a 35. I did list all the colors over on my blog post, just so you know. And all of the stuff I'm using here today is listed on my blog in and you can get there by going to the description. Sorry, my dogs are distracting me. I'm like thinking about the dogs barking and being horrified that they're barking while I'm doing a video with you. I'm gonna have to go stop them. Okay, I'm back. I think I got everybody settled down, and now I'm going in with a little bit darker e-color and just doing some shading on this sign. I'm putting the darkest colors right underneath the sign because that's where the shadows would be. And then just for more interest, I'm doing the darker shading on the outside of this sign. And then leaving it as light as possible in the middle. I'm using my lightest marker, my lightest e-marker that I used here to go back over and do my blending. And I'm blending out all of the colors. Now, on the video, you can see it's very dark on each ends of my sign, so it makes it a little bit difficult to see the $1 and the P. I'm not worried about that because as the colors kind of settle down, it relaxes away a little bit, and also in person, it is much easier to see. So unfortunately, there's just certain things we can't convey in video. So I'm going over now and I'm adding a little bit of a black edge to the back of this sign on two sides to kind of make it look three-dimensional. But I wasn't originally going to do this. I ended up doing this because I made a mistake. I colored outside the line quite a bit. It was really obvious. And so in order to cover up that mistake, I just took my Copic multiliner and I went around and I just added some depth to that sign by kind of thickening up the lines and making it look a little bit more 3D. So that's what I did there. Now all I have to do is add some dimensionals to the back of my little scarecrow, and then I'm going to go ahead and pop him up on top of his little post there. His little head sticks up just a little tiny bit above the card, which I really like because I'm going to add this to a card base. So I went ahead and stamped the cute little pumpkin face to the front of this card, and then I have a little bitty spider that I stamped, and I'm going to use my Copic multiliner to draw a little string down off of my sign so it looks like my spider's coming down out of the sign to visit the pumpkins. And it, again, just adds a little bit more interest to this card and creates a little bit more of a scene. All right, so now the final step is I need to add a bunch of Copics, a bunch of dimensionals to the back of this panel and add it to the front of my card. And that's it. It's all done. I'm going around to the edges of the signs now and adding little bitty dash lines in groups of 3 to just give more of an effect of looking like wood, basically. And my card is finished. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoy Copic coloring and creating scenes in my cards. If you want to see more of my videos, you can subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up on this video if you liked it, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.